Bruv, what a fucking week. I really wanted to talk about the faults of the left, and I want to talk about obviously the right and the far right and where that comes from. So firstly, before talking about anything, I obviously want to say massively, it's what happened. The stabbings was awful. Rest in peace to the 3 children that died. Making these videos where I talk about, the death of the high street and death of seaside towns, all this sort of stuff. Made videos about Mosley and the BUF, the fascist movement, and the skinheads, the National Front. I made these 2 videos, and the thing that became so clear to me was in times of economic instability, typically led on by inequality, but not always, mainly just economic instability, there is this feeling in society of anxiety because life becomes harder to live. Like if prices are going through the roof, if you're uncertain that you can afford to live, you feel anxious. And in that time, there's 2 responses. Either you deal with the reason why the economic system is failing people, or you find a very convenient scapegoat and just put everything on them. Understanding, like for your average Joe, right? Let's just picture your average person who's going to these riots. They probably, I'm speculating heavy, but they probably don't have a deep understanding of economics. I don't. Most people don't, because it's complicated, it's hidden, and it's these sort of mysterious systems that are very hard to understand. But what they do have a perception of is how their country looks a little bit different than what it looked like when they were younger, or when they go on Twitter and they see different people living in the country. And if they're shown, a very skewed image of how the world is, and Twitter will show them crimes committed by people that look different to them, that's what they see, and they can just understand that. Forget the fact that, it's massively propagandized and blown out of proportion. It doesn't matter, because the visible thing that they can see, a thing that is different from when they were younger or whatever, that people look different to them, that is visible. The mechanics of capitalism, the mechanics of banking, the mechanics of the housing market is not very visible. It's quite hard to wrap your head around the cause of the financial crash. There was films made about it. You watch Moneyball and The Big Short, and you try and understand what they're on about. It's fucking so hard. So what I'm getting at is that there are opportunists in these moments of economic instability that are able to simply articulate a very easy scapegoat that anyone can understand. Anyone can understand. Like, it doesn't mean it's correct. It's incorrect. But anyone can wrap their head around. There are people in this country that are different to you. And then they will say things like, they're taking your jobs, taking your houses, etc., etc. And that's just, that's kind of easy to wrap your head around. It's far harder to wrap your head around the fact that since Thatcher, we moved towards a different economic model called neoliberalism. We cut taxes for the ultra wealthy. We deregulated a ton of trades. We stopped building social housing. We started cutting funds to major services. We privatized tons of services. Tons of infrastructure got privatized. We made markets out of things that should have never been markets. Housing should have never been the market that it is today. But now people speculate on houses. Very, very rich people buy up all these social houses that, because of Thatcher in the 80s, she freed them up and allowed them to become sellable goods as opposed to vital even saying these words, it becomes jargony. It becomes hard to understand. But these are the mechanics at play that have caused all these things. And yet it's far easier just to say, these people, the immigrants coming into our country, they're causing all the problems. It's just, all you have to do is show a video of an immigrant doing something criminal, which we all know what humans are like. People are going to do things criminal. And you can always show that, if you look at the statistics of who commits crimes, obviously we live in a majority white country, so a vast majority of crimes are committed by white people, but you don't get shown these things because it doesn't fit a story, a narrative. So it's just this thing. It's very hard to explain clearly the failings of neoliberalism and extreme capitalism. I use the word extreme capitalism deliberately because I believe that capitalism is just a tool that can be used for good or bad. Currently, I feel like it's being used for bad. When it's used as just to provide profit for the top 0.1% of people, that's it being used for bad. When it's used to innovate and we put guardrails on it to push it in a direction to innovate, you know, green technologies, whatever, depends on what your position on that is. But if you point it in a direction to make something that's good for mankind, capitalism can excel in that. But we've allowed it to run rampant, and we've allowed people who are extremely wealthy to basically just absolutely shaft large swathes of society, all of us. And this is the problem, right? So when I see all these riots, there is the obvious part of me that's looking at these people who are doing these fucked up things, burning stuff, attacking people, attacking foreign people. And it's awful. It's so awful. And it's so evil. And you look at these people and you feel a lot of anger towards these people. And a lot of people I see on Twitter where they're like, don't have sympathy for these people because, you know, they're out doing all these things. But I think you have to understand that most of these people doing this stuff are from poorer communities, typically, not always, but the vast majority of people out fucking burning down shops are from poorer communities. And you can see it in where most of the riots started. They're not like Chelsea, right? They're not super wealthy areas, and they're underfunded, undereducated, and no one on the left is coming out clearly and explaining what is happening, or at least having success in explaining it. Maybe there are people doing it. That, look, the reason you can't afford a house, the reason that you can hardly afford to feed your family or heat your home isn't because of, I don't know, Mohammed who runs a corner shop. It isn't because of him. It's because of these invisible, ultra wealthy families that buy up our whole country. And just the way our politics has been run. And the left have never clearly explained that. So what happens is they get let down by the left. The left are meant to be these people that care about inequality and, people being treated poorly. They're meant to. But the thing is, the left do it in just words. They just say obviously with the culture war stuff, they jumped on like Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ stuff and, feminism, all these things. These are all parts of inequality. Right, so inequality hits minorities typically worse than the majority, but they talk about these things. But the left, they're so committed to the way our economics works, which is neoliberalism, the idea of the market should be free to do what they want to do, and they'll solve the world. So we should deregulate and lower taxes on them. Because they're so committed to that, they can't actually offer a solution. They can complain. They can say, it's bad that there's homeless people. It's bad that people can't afford houses. It's bad that, minority groups are treated badly. They can say it's bad, but they never offer anything. So for a long time, there's a lot of goodwill around the left and the Labour Party in England for a long time. But once Tony Blair came in and Labour flipped into New Labour and they followed neoliberalism, it became like this wolf in sheep's clothing, in a sense, where they would say the right things, they care about the little guy. Whereas the Tories, they're a bit more honest that they don't give a shit about the little guy. But the left said they did, but they were so committed to the same financial principles that caused all these problems that they will never be able to fix the problems. So they'll just say, look, we care about this, we care about homeless people, but what are you fucking doing? You're not doing a lot. So the left failed them. And so then you get your populists, you get your Nigel Farage, you get your Tommy Robinsons, you get these people that know how to say the feelings that are in a country. So those feelings are effectively take the anxiety. People just feel this anxiety around them because life's getting harder, because things are more expensive, etc. And then you say, look, the reason is because of migrants. They do that. That's it. And the solution is get rid of the migrants. That's it. That's their solution. It's not accurate. Migrants bring in more money than they take from the economy. There's this perception. I remember hearing someone talking about, is it Southport that the stabbings happened in? They said, well, you take a place like Southport that's been invaded with migrants. And then I looked into it. Southport is 95% white, 1.2% Muslim. But there's this, what is reality, and then there's the perception these people have in their heads around immigration. And it's smoke and mirrors. They've done this forever. As I said, the BUF in the 20s and 30s, in the Great Depression, they blamed the Jews. And originally they blamed the Germans, but the Jews became a better target for them. In the 70s and the 80s, where you have the oil crisis, the collapse of the Bretton Woods financial system, they blamed the blacks, the Pakistanis and the Irish. Now we've had the financial crash, COVID, cost of living crisis. Now they blame Muslims or just immigration in general. They do this because they understand that people feel something and no one's stepping in to give a legitimate voice to the legitimate reasons for these things, for the problems we're having in society, which is unfettered, unrestrained capitalism and not taxing the wealthy enough and using the profits of capitalism to make the lives of the working class people better. Do you think if each one of those rioters were given £1 million tomorrow, do you think they'd be out rioting, or do you think they'd just be out enjoying their lives? Do you think they would care that much? I just think what is happening is atomization has happened through the results of the way our political system pushes us. It pushes us to be dog eat dog and every man for themselves, individualism. It doesn't push community. So these people, they're feeling it. They're feeling like society doesn't feel close and connected. We feel atomized. I'm busy working all day. I don't have enough time to, socialize, all these sort of feelings that we have, and they don't know why, because no one's being honest about the reasons, and that is wealth inequality, and wealth inequality as a byproduct of neoliberalism. And the solution is to tax the ultra wealthy. But the thing is, what they've done so cleverly, and this is what these sort of far right people always do, is they demonize the actual solution. So me saying that, I know that any very right-wing person listening to what I just said, they would have turned this video off a long time ago because they would have assumed I'm a communist, which is insane. But that is the skillful rhetoric of these populist leaders that make them think that anything close to the solution, which is simply, in my opinion, taxing the ultra-wealthy and paying for social services that mean that the bottom half of society don't live in squalor. Do you call that communism? Do you think you need a dictator to do that? Do you think that means that you're not allowed to go and open a business because we'll kill you? No, it doesn't mean that. What I said is what I mean. But the way these people do it is by lumping in communists into this immigration thing. Now it's like the woke and stuff, but people still use the term communism and stuff. And I just think that what the left needs is to go back to just old school lefty economics, like Keynesianism. Maybe it needs to be evolved, adapted, whatever, but it needs to go back to talking about income inequality and wealth redistribution. Wealth redistribution. It needs to go back to that. You've got to think, one of the things I notice is if you go and look at all these people who are out rioting, just the demographic, it's white geezers who are quite, I guess, macho in a way. And the people that talk on the left, they kind of despise that type of person. And look, I'm sorry if you think these people are very bad at their core or whatever, but these are the people the left needs to win over. It needs these people. Those people right now who are rioting, they were the same people back in the 40s who would have pushed for the post-war consensus, the stuff that made the NHS. Back when left-wing economics was more understood and people understood the real enemy is the ultra-wealthy elites. When they understood that, they changed the world. So you can write these people off and their behavior and the actions they are doing are fucking abhorrent. But I really believe they've been manipulated and brainwashed into thinking that this immigration thing is the big issue when it's not. We need these people and we need to talk to them in a way that makes sense. Like, just for instance, if someone, like, this sounds really dumb, and if you presented the argument about the ultra wealthy elite, right? If I did it right now and I had bright blue hair and I said, hi, my pronouns are he, him, blah, 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 they've switched off. They don't care about it. If I weighed, half of what I weigh, I had no muscle. I know this sounds so dumb, but they're not going to listen and respect that type of person, because that person, it isn't because that person is inherently wrong or bad or something, but that person just has no connection with what they're used to, their culture, right? So we need people from different backgrounds. We need people from working class white communities who can put out this message in a way that's going to actually resonate with the people of those communities. Because right now, all you have are people like Tommy Robinson who are more like them, but giving the wrong message. And until the left accepts that, it is the argument the left makes that representation matters, and it does matter. I totally fucking agree. The black community need black leaders to be able to put out the message that they want to push out of equality for, minority groups. They need that because it does matter, because you trust that person more. right? So there just needs to be this shift in the left where it can't be that everyone on the left is a super woke, young, 20-year-old, what looks like a feminist. I don't have any real beef against these people. I believe that they actually understand the deeper roots of the problems a lot better than a lot of people, especially in politics. But it's just on a surface level that doesn't cut through and doesn't speak to someone in a working class white community, like a really geezer. And you need him on your side. So we can condemn these people and we can condemn their actions. But at the end of the day, I really believe that it's the failure of the state, the failure of capitalism that has led this to happen. These people, you got to think about it like Tommy Robinson and these people, they profit. They make money off of pushing this out. Just by how, we've made an industry around media, and especially more extremist media lately, like GB News and Talk TV, they're making money, right? And they're pushing their agenda. So we need people who are more like them speaking this and just explaining, look, the immigrants aren't the fucking problem. We've had immigration forever. We're a nation of immigrants, like realistically, or at least of cultural exchange. Whereas, you might look at a Muslim person and go, wow, they're very different to me. They're very different. That culture, Western or Christian and Muslim can't mix. You'll say something like that. People would have said the same about Irish people at some point, because Irish people, when you had a majority white community and you weren't used to a majority white British community and you weren't used to Irish people, those Irish people would have stood out like a fucking sore thumb. But, look, and Polish people, I remember in the 2000s, people complained about Polish people. But we need to understand that our whole economy, our whole country, we drink tea. Tea is not British. It's not British, it's Indian. We love culture exchange. And in times of peace and economic prosperity, no one's fucking talking about what does it really mean to be British. Is a British person, is an Asian person, can they be British? No, because they're not white. Like, no one's talking about that in a time of prosperity when we're able to go out, work a decent day's work hard, make enough money, come home and afford to have a family and have kids and have our basic needs met and not live in deep stress, feeling like we're being exploited by our bosses and stuff like that. That, when you give people that, I reckon you'll see that identitarian politics just becomes, a thing we don't talk about as much because it's not as necessary. People don't know what the problem is because no one's being fucking honest and talking about how it's the ultra wealthy. I love Britain. And that's the other thing, man. These people feel like loving Britain is a crime. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. I love Britain, but I love certain parts of Britain. And I recognise our failures and I recognise our weaknesses and the stuff we done wrong in the past. But you have to be proud about how we evolved and we changed and we accepted our mistakes and we grow from them. We need to, as the left as well, the left needs to reclaim what it means to be a patriot. A patriot is someone who loves Britain and loves this country and loves what we are, and accepts its weaknesses and its faults. And I don't really think these people who are pushing the far right agenda, who complain about so many elements of what is clearly British culture, they'll look at like black Londoners who clearly have their own culture that only exists in London, right? Doesn't exist anywhere out in the world. You're not going to see Ayo Wagwan. You're not going to hear that London, multicultural London accent outside of London. So where else is it if it isn't British culture? The left need to accept that Britain is amazing. It makes amazing things. And we need to reclaim, we need to bring back, we need to bring the British flag back to people who actually care about this country. People who actually want to make it better for everyone, not make it better for, the ultra fucking wealthy. We want to make it better for everyone and accept everyone in this country as being British. And that should be part of our British identity. And that's something you can be excited about and happy about. Be proud of that. At the moment, people don't want to fly the flag or whatever, or they're ashamed of certain things because we've let groups like this co-opt it, but we need to take it back. We need to push. We need to be stronger. And we can't just talk to ourselves. We can't just, fucking just talk to people in the universities and, the middle class and blah, 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 blah. We need to start actually engaging with people from the most affected backgrounds, the working class. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Yeah, as I say, fucking let's fix this country. Peace.